Don't laugh. So it says to me now that the meeting is now streaming live on YouTube. But do you know what? I never quite trust it. So if you can see us, hi. We've got some drinks ready. John Shayler's got some nice. The meeting is now streaming live on YouTube. Yes, there you go. You know what? I never quite trust it.
You're live.
So if you can see us, there we go. So it is working, obviously. There you go. So John Shayler has some Dunkler Weiss beer there, some dark wheat beer from Germany. I have the remnants of some Costco wine, which is very good, Oxford Landing. Phil, what do you have there?
House Claret, Wine Society.
Oh, he has silent wine. I can't hear him.
Oh.
Is this just me not being able to be heard?
I can hear, now I can hear him.
Phil, what do you have then?
I'm here.
Oh, there we go. I know what this is. Okay, no, I can hear you now. Yes, right. Go on. Phil, what are you drinking?
Wine Society Claret, House Claret.
Very nice. And William Bruce, the new ESTA council member. William, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, I didn't know you had to drink something, so I didn't prepare anything. So I'm awfully sorry about that, but I'm on the wagon for the moment.
Oh, very good. Well done. It's a good example to set. In fact, just before we came online, we were talking about too much alcohol in the music business, but that's a whole nother webinar. So now we're going to officially start. For those of you who can see us, welcome to ESTA's 394,000th weekly lockdown webinar, or so it feels. But you know what? It's been 2 weeks since we've seen you all, because last week we had the most wonderful CPD sessions with about, how many people was it, Phil? 50 people came?
I think, Nicole, it was 56 in total in the end.
6 people, amazing. And also some of you are also accessing these sessions now after the event online. We have them recorded, so you can actually buy some of these events now if you want to have a little bit of extra help with upper or lower strings technique, if you want some help with resilience from Lucy Hare, which was actually an incredible couple of sessions from Lucy. I felt, you know, really quite life-changing for a lot of people. They were. We had 20 questions, although it weren't 20. We got through about 3, I think, questions with Simon Fisher. A wonderful hour there with him. And folk session with Chris Haig and Sheila's famous quiz. And then every morning we held Feldenkrais with Joe Horder. So it was a magical 3 days. And it was so lovely to see so many of you. It really was. I felt so sad that the summer school had to be cancelled this year. But the plus side, and there is always a plus side, remember, is that so many more people could join us for this that normally wouldn't be able to come to summer school. So we decided, Phil, is this right? We're going to do more CPD sessions. Tell us about that.
We are. I mean, looking back on last week, we can't quite believe how successful it was, because we really didn't know. We've never done anything like this before. And we really didn't know if people wanted and felt comfortable about sitting in front of a computer in the middle of June for 3 hours every morning. You know, that in the middle of winter, maybe, but you know, when the sun is shining and all the rest of it. But we were really pleased by the response and by the real sort of camaraderie. And as you say, Nicole, people were coming from Cornwall and the Highlands. And I guess, you know, while Chichester is great, a week at Chichester is absolutely fantastic face to face. It's worth considering how much it costs people to travel alone just to get down to the South Coast. So it's great that it's open to everybody. So we're definitely going to be doing more of these. We're just discussing now whether they're going to be 3-day, 2-day, whether we're going to have sort of themed events. But we will make announcements fairly soon. But we're quite excited by the whole thing. So watch this space.
Fantastic, we loved it. William Bruce, I thought you were running away there. William is our newest council member. Welcome back to ESTA, William.
Well, hello everybody. It's very strange because you can see us, but because we can't see you. But I've been looking forward to this for a long time, because it's the end of my E&O career of 36 years in the pit. And every second out of the pit, I've threw myself into music education. And now I've got all this wonderful time. But then now the whole world's changed. And we're in if you haven't seen Ready Player One, then see it. It's a great film. You'll need a nephew, niece, grandson or child to watch it with, or you'll feel guilty. But it's about going into this on-screen world, which is so different from your own, and making a life there and making an adventure, and that's what it feels like to me. So I've got my tasks here. This is my this is from Carey. I'm trying to join the 100 Club, which is 100 days of practice without a break. And you can have a break. You've got to go back to the beginning. And I've got my students on it, and I've got a 6-year-old ahead of me, so that's keeping me motivated. And I've got for my online life, I've got my signs to say this is the most useful one. And yeah. And things that, and then we have, oh yeah, they're very good. That's the one I use a lot as well. Down both. This one, instead of very good, you can use that, and then it saves so much time. But we're all on frontier land, and especially at the institutions where we're trying to do chamber music and orchestra online, trying to find a way we can make that relevant. But it shows how resourceful we are as musicians, certainly.
Well, I love that all those are wiped clean, William, so that the tears can be wiped off them. I think that's marvellous.
I laminated them all,
Yeah.
so that my red won't stay.
Amazing. But William, you have had the most unbelievable career. So I first met you in the pit at ENO, but you are head of strings at Junior Guildhall. Let me get all this right now. Head of strings at Junior Guildhall. You founded Cello Club?
Yes, yes, it was.
Tell us about Cello Club. I've not heard of Cello Club.
It started in the 90s, and it was in my little spare room. And it was just, I remember buying the first printer when computers came out. It was £1,000, the very first printer. I was so excited with this. And we initially printed our own magazines on this. And I wanted it to come through the letterbox so the children could open the magazine, and everyone contributed. There was wonderful goodwill. And then eventually we got to about 1,200 members. And now it's run by, it's the junior part of the London Cello Society, which Selma Gochan runs brilliantly. And instead of being magazine based, it's events based. So they have huge cello events every year. There's one big one at the Academy, or we've used Trinity. And everyone donates their services, and the whole building just sings with cellists. So it's a pleasure to see it transform into this wonderful way of keeping people together. I've enjoyed that.
Yeah. You also have a huge role within the ABRSM. You've many jobs there. You're tea lady. You are examiner selector, examiner trainer, syllabus selector. Now,
I've done all these things, but I've stepped back from them because it's important other people do them to develop themselves. So if anyone fancies selecting syllabuses, write and tell them.
I fancy that. I think that sounds great.
Right, and tell them it's very interesting. There's all sorts of hoops to jump through before a piece can make it. It has to be the right length for a start. A grade 1 piece needs to be, 45 seconds max. And the piano accompaniment has to be accessible. It has to be available so that people can either download it or buy it. And it's not as easy as you think. And there's thousands and thousands of pieces to choose from. I did it for 2 years, for 2 syllabuses running, and moderated it for a while. That was great fun. But my work now is as an examiner, which I love. I moderate examiners, and I do the work on the diploma side of it, which keeps me very busy.
Oh, fantastic. Now, we're so glad that you've joined us on the council for ESTA. It's a fantastic thing to have you, and also Caddy Mason joined us when we just had the AGM last Sunday, and it's wonderful to have you both on board. We're going to be seeing Caddy when, Phil? When's Caddy coming on the weekly webinar?
Caddy's joining us the week after next.
Fantastic. So that'll be lovely to talk to her about, obviously, her incredible experiences with her 7 children who are also talented. But William, tell us, you're talking to us about how we're going to be trying to get more teachers involved in ESTA. We were talking just before we came online, in fact, about how people have a misconception, don't they, about who ESTA is for.
It is conscription. everyone thinks ESTA's for someone else who isn't a member. That's why they're not a member. And of course, it's for everybody. It's not just what you get from it, it's what you give to it. And so the junior department teachers do seem rather underrepresented when I look down the names of the membership. And I'd like to do something about it.
We hope you're working on it.
Oh, yes. And those wonderful buildings that we can use, and lots of joint collaborations that would be fascinating. But not as well as that, what I've discovered is there's a huge world outside of a pit at English National Opera. And I'm just back from working with Magyar children on a gypsy project in Romania.
Wow.
I've been over a number of times into these incredibly poor villages where these kids, I mean, talk about discrimination, you know, people will scream insults at them out of the windows of passing cars. They don't go to school because they're bullied. There were 9 of them living in one tiny shack on a black mattress with no electricity, minus 40 in the winter and plus 40 in the summer. I came back covered in lice the first time, but I was desperate to go back. And these kids are hardwired for string playing. And there's a wonderful project set up over there under the Catholic Church where the set of music schools bring them in. They're given clothes, they're given counselors, they're given wonderful, top quality lessons, and that they bring in all the best Magyar musicians into these institutions to teach. And it's just breathtaking what they're achieving. So I'm hoping I can persuade some of our members to go over. And Birmingham Conservatoire are doing wonderful things over in Soweto. We went over there. So it's like a war zone. I mean, and they're doing Skype teaching there, and as they have their own teachers, and the students are teaching in Skype. And now we're all getting used to this new medium. Hey, the whole world's opening, isn't it? You can teach anywhere in the world, and have your background, whatever you have, the Albert Hall in the background, or.
I went over to Sao Paulo a few years ago with Howard Ionescu when he was director of the Junior Academy. And we had an amazing week at the Baccarelli Institute. Baccarelli Institute is based in the slums in Sao Paulo. And we could literally hear bullet shots, bullets being fired as we were playing every day. The kids were unfazed by it. It was quite remarkable. But the reason that the Baccarelli Institute is there is because the Brazilian government can only afford to give the children half a day of schooling a week, half a day every day in the week. They can't give them a full day. So for the other half of the day, they're in danger of being conscripted by the drugs cartels. And so the Baccarelli Institute takes, I think it's about 2,000 kids for the other half of their day. So one lot in the morning and one lot in the afternoon. And they teach them to play. And if you don't practice and you don't turn up every day, you're thrown out because there's 30,000 kids there that want to be on it. And there's only space for 2,000. But honestly, I've never seen, in my experience, such an engaged, enthusiastic bunch of kids who concentrate like, I mean, it put me to shame. It really did. They were just phenomenal, because it was the one amazing thing in their week. And it's such a wonderful thing when you've got kids and grown-ups where, who are still loving music in the way that we all did when we were kids. I'm thinking about the first time I played a Mahler symphony and just thinking, my world went into Technicolor, and it's so great. I love working with kids at that moment when they realize how it's total escapism, isn't it, really, William? Do you think?
Well, our oldest teacher at Guildhall, she won't mind me saying this but she has an 80th birthday coming up, and she must have been teaching for at least 60 of those years. And she lives for her students. She has a glint in her eye. She's passionate. She will never desert a student. She'll work with them. She's giving them free lessons every day on top of what we're getting. And it makes you realize that energy that you get from your students gives, as you get older and more experienced at teaching, it forms this wonderful collaboration and keeps you young as well.
So, how young are you feeling, John Shayler?
Well, I'm feeling quite old actually, but it keeps me a bit younger by doing the and being involved with ESTA, but certainly. I was just thinking back, William, actually, because this is not the first time you've been involved with ESTA. I have a feeling that you were a part of the what we used to call it the management committee in those days.
I was. I remember those.
We have an executive committee these days, but in those days it was our management committee. We used to meet at the Pedder's house, didn't we, in Ham?
Do you remember Manny Hervey coming along? Do you remember Manny Hervey coming? Do you remember Manny coming?
Yes. Oh, we had some characters. Oh dear me! Over the years, I think it was actually the cello club that eventually caused your needing to leave us because it took up all your time in the 90s. So it was probably in the 80s when you were very much a part of ESTA. So you're by no means new to it, and it's lovely to have you back again now that you've got a little bit of time. Although I know people just fill up their time when they stop doing one thing. The time just fills up in other ways. But it's lovely to have you back.
Thank you. It's lovely.
William, I've got a quick question for you. With all the online teaching that's taking place now, you know, it's just how life is now. When we are able to go back to face, do you think some students will say, actually, can we just stay online? Do you think some students will want that because it's something that's worked better for them in some areas?
It's funny you should say that, because the feedback we've had that I'm hearing from senior conservatoire students as well is they prefer the lessons online. And I'm wondering why. I know from my own point of view, I have to be much clearer. I can't waffle. I've got to go to the point and hold my sign up, get to the one point that's going to improve things. And also I get this little picture of myself in the corner, and I thought I was the smiliest teacher ever, but there was this horrible glowering guy in the bottom right-hand corner. I've worked very hard with him, and now he sort of smiles through quite well. So my presentations become much more important to me.
Yes, it's been really that. I totally agree, because my default face is something like that when I'm not actually thinking about it. So switching on the happy Shayler face has been something. This has been very useful because you can see yourself.
Yeah.
Great.
I was talking to Rodney Friend earlier on this evening, and he was talking about the benefit of being able to eyeball people. You know, when you're in a room with a student, you know, often particularly a teenager, they can't look you in the eye. It's all a bit awkward sometimes. And that kind of age of student, I found a really good connection with online. Being able to talk to them, even when they're sort of slightly looking off to the side because that's where their camera is or whatever. Actually, it's great, and I get a much better concentration level out of a lot of them. Do you find that as well, William?
Perhaps they're practicing more as well, but it's very different. How do I know what I'm missing? I'm not quite sure of the angles on. Is the parallel to the bridge on every string? I can't quite tell with the camera. So maybe when we meet in the flesh, there'll be all sorts of things. Are those
awful noise?
We keep checking, but you don't know what you don't know. That's the thing.
Yeah, we're imagining the sound they're making, of course, and I'm sure we're perhaps assuming that the sound is much better than it actually is. But it struck me, actually, this has been discussed quite a lot, hasn't it, about the quality of sound. Goodness, we play an instrument which is so visual. God knows how the woodwind teachers, the brass teachers cope with this. But at least we can see if the bow is 6 inches away from the bridge, we've got a fairly good idea. The sound might not be 100%, or if it's actually on the wrong side of the bridge. You know, you can kind of see how the bow's behaving, and you can also see left-hand shapes and so on. So there's quite a lot you can tell from watching them on the screen. But I think you're right. When we come back and they come and visit me again, goodness knows what terrible things will be happening. I hadn't noticed, but hey, we're here to sort these things out. I'm sure we'll be able to.
We'll have to have a special support webinar at that point where we can all come in and go, oh my God, I thought it was fine and it's a disaster, as we all go back to live lessons.
Yeah, after the first week back, we'll need a webinar of definitely. One of these webinars is essential,
It's when
and people will write in.
It's when they walk through the door in September, October, and they take their instrument out for the first time and they're holding it in the wrong hand. I'm sure it'll happen somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apart from that, everything's fine. Yeah.
It's great, guys. You're doing really well. We've had lovely messages in from people. Lovely, lovely messages. We're so pleased so many of you are managing to get online successfully, persuading your students to try it. I know there are still some of you out there who are having trouble getting people to try online. Please be in contact with us if we can help you in any way to make the online experience better for them or you. Please don't hesitate to contact us, because some situations are trickier than others, and some people's Wi-Fi is not as good as others as well. So,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
it's so sadly not a level playing field, which is very difficult. Please be in touch if we can help you. So I have to ask you, Phil, then, so what's going to happen in the future with ESTA online and not online, of course? I mean, obviously, we're looking forward to summer school next year. Can't wait. It's going to be so lovely to be there in person. But in the meantime, what kind of subjects do you think we might be covering in these online sessions? Or would you like some suggestions from our membership?
Well, you know, we try our very, very best to respond to our membership. So please write in with your questions and your suggestions, because to be frank, that's where we get some of our best ideas from. It's you guys letting us know what we need to do. So that's really important. For the next few Friday nights, next Friday, we've got the music teachers panel who run the online exams, which is relatively new. So it'll be quite interesting to hear what they've got to say and how that's done. Caddy Kenna Mason is joining us the following week. And then we've got Dan and Joe coming from Cardiff Violins.
Chaz and Dave.
Chaz and Dave.
Sorry, Dan and Joe, go on.
Two great young guys from Cardiff Violins who've been to the summer school the last few years. And they're a great double act, actually. And they're going to just talk us through and talk parents through how maybe they could put on a string or put back that bridge without using super glue and hammer and nail and all that kind of
crowbar. Yeah,
crowbar. so they're going to give it, and it'll be quite interesting because we have four on a panel. So if Dan's doing something, we envisage Joe will have his camera on what Dan's doing, so we'll be able to sort of use technology to its best there. Yeah. And then we're going to take a little break. We're going to take a little break from the end of July to a few days before the beginning of September, just to recharge the batteries and to plan and scheme for the autumn. But in that time, please do write in and give us all the ideas that we need.
Yeah, keep the dialogue going.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not shutting shop. We're just going to go and dig the garden for a week or so and just have a break.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me this evening. It's lovely as always. Friday night. I love it. It's fantastic. Really looking forward to these next few webinars. And thank you very much, William, not only for joining us tonight, but also for joining the ESTA Council.
Yeah.
Have you on board. John.
It's worth just saying that William also is our awardee this year. He's got the ESTA award for services to string teaching. So we're looking forward very much to finding an opportunity to hand over the award trophy thing. Very nice.
That's got to be done in person, definitely.
But we need to do that face to face somewhere or other. Maybe I can come up to Scarborough. That sounds like a good idea.
You're all welcome to Scarborough. I've got a huge house full of empty rooms.
That sounds great, because I went to Leeds last year to give the award. So Scarborough is just a tiny little bit further, I think, isn't it? I can cope.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So we'll see you next Friday, same time, same place, 7 o'clock on YouTube. Thank you very much for everybody for joining us. Bye.